People who grew up in toxic households. What was the worst thing your parents ever did to you? My dad's favorite thing to do when he got intoxicated was ranting about how useless I was. Just like that dirty dog of mine, he used to say. My parents always treated me like I was some unwelcome visitor in the trailer rather than their kid. Growing up in a rural trailer park in the middle of nowhere where no one gives a damn about you is lonely. I believed I was useless and lived like that for a long time until my dog, Reggie, found me. I guess like most good dogs find their owners. I was out sitting on the edge of the trailer park, trying to stay out of my dad's sight after he had hit the bottle too hard. And then me. My head was still ringing when I heard Reggie's little paws clear as day strolling up the gravel road straight towards me for the first time. He had never seen me a day in his life, but his tail was wagging like I was his oldest friend in the world. He walked right up to me and licked the top of my head. When he got up close, I saw the white on his face and could tell he was an older boy. When I eventually walked back to the house with him beside me that day, my dad immediately threw a bottle at my head and one at Reggie. Years later, and Hess never let Reggie in the trailer. It wasn't a good home, but Reggie, like my own personal bodyguard, still refused to leave my side, even if my parents yelled and spit at him every time they saw him. 4 years later, and I still consider Reggie my only real family. After I started caring for Reggie, I realized there was no way my parents would buy his food, so I started riding my bike to town to do odd jobs for pocket change. I've been saving up to leave the trailer park and move to the city. A couple months ago, I had to go deep into town for a job, and even though I usually bring Reggie, I wanted to leave him at home since it was a longer journey. He didn't have the strongest joints as an older boy, and I just wanted him to rest. On the rare occasion that I leave Reggie, he roams the park and stays out of trouble. But I guess I was an idiot to let Reggie roam when I knew my dad was driving around the trailer park wasted most days. I had got home late one night after a long bike ride back to the trailer park, and as soon as Reggie didn't run straight up to me when I pedaled in, I knew something had to be wrong. I never want to feel panic like that again in my life. I started running towards my trailer yelling his name. My parents screamed at me to shut the hell up, but Reggie was nowhere to be found. That dog came every single time I called him, but that night I screamed myself hoarse without finding him. It wasn't until I walked back down to one of the entrance roads and saw a little dark lump lying by the curb. My heart was in my throat, and before I even reached him, it was like I knew exactly what happened before I saw him. Only my bum of a father could have hit Reggie and left him in the road to die. There was my boy laying in the street, a huge gash in his side. There was a giant patch of road rash over the top of one of his paws, the color of medium rare chicken. I couldn't tell if he was alive at first, but as I got closer, I heard him breathing rapidly and I saw his eyes turn to look at me. I scooped Reggie up and ran back to my house. I had never asked my parents for a damn thing in my life, but that night I marched straight to their room and asked my mom for my dad's keys so I could take Reggie to the vet. My dad was passed out cold on the bed, and my mom started bitching at me to get out the moment I burst through her door. I begged her, but all my mom said was, "We're lucky the stupid thing got put down for free." My mom was laughing in my face as Reggie was bleeding out in the driveway. Then my brain just shut off and my body started moving. I pushed my mom out of my way, and in one movement I grabbed the keys and was out the door. At that point I could hear both my parents screaming their heads off and making their way outside, but me and Reggie were gone. I took him to our town vet, and by some miracle, he got stitched up and I brought him home all right. Even though I was happy he was getting treated, I had to hold back tears when the vet revealed that Reggie was around 13 years old. Before we drove back up to the house, I rested Reggie in some bushes since I knew the beating I was about to get might damn near unalive me. My dad doubled my chores after that incident, but I had saved Reggie's life. Even if his vet bill had almost completely wiped out the tiny bit of savings I had, it had been worth every penny. I had been so relieved after Reggie survived the accident. I wanted to stay home and wash Reggie's healing stitches whenever I could, but I had to pick up more jobs than ever to try and make my savings back. Meanwhile, my dad spent every moment he was awake working me to the bone, fixing crap around the trailer. I wanted to try and keep an eye on Reggie at all times, but it was impossible, and I couldn't stop him from licking his stitches till they bled. The vet said I could give him Benadryl if he was in pain, but my mom hid them after I stole some. I couldn't stay with him 24/7, and every night I checked on his skin for signs of improvement, but he just kept whining and licking away. I had no idea what to do. There was no way I could afford to get him healed up at the vet a second time. My dad had seen Reggie's nasty looking wound and said he and my mom started taking bets for when he was going to kick the bucket. One night after I had finished my chores, I whistled for Reggie, but he didn't walk over from where he had been sitting nearby. When I went over to investigate, I collapsed to my knees after realizing what was wrong. Reggie had licked the fresh scab from his injured paw clean off, and his entire foot was raw and bleeding. He couldn't walk on it, and I had to carry him to his little outdoor bed. That night, while I tried not to wake my parents up with my crying, that same night I stayed up despite being totally exhausted, and I told myself I wouldn't go to sleep until I had found some sort of solution for my boy. So in the middle of the night I raided my parents' medicine cabinet to find any sort of pain relief for Reggie, and after trying my best to silently move the bottles and read, I chose something called Woundvite. I knew it was for humans, but I was desperate and I just needed to try anything since I couldn't afford the vet anymore. I was scared it might make him sicker. I knew it was for humans, but I was a poor kid who was poop out of luck, and I just wanted to keep trying. Not only did Reggie need to feel better, but his wounds needed to heal faster since the vet wasn't an option anymore. If Reggie left me, then there would be nothing left of me. For the next week I would sneak out after the sun went down, give Reggie his Woundvite, then stay out there with him all night. I would take naps at school so I could stay alert at night to stop Reggie from licking his wounds. I figured if all I had to do was stay awake with him every night, petting him and humming to him until he fell back asleep for his wounds to finally heal, then that's exactly what I was going to do. After the next couple of days, Reggie finally started healing up. I noticed he wasn't licking his wounds anymore. He was sleeping through the night and his incision was finally scabbing over. His paw skin had almost totally scabbed over and he had no problem running and walking on it again. I even told my dad that he and my mom owe me the entire jackpot when my boy pulled through. That one earned me a swift knock to the side of the head, but it was worth it. I had only taken a couple of the Woundvite pills from my parents' cabinet, so I knew I needed to get Reggie his own bottle soon if he was going to keep healing up. I felt like a huge idiot when I looked online and realized the same medication existed for dogs. It was just called Wound Vite Chews. After I ordered them, I felt like I had just sat down a 50 pounds weight. Reggie was my only real family in this entire world, and I couldn't believe how close I had come to losing him. I spent that entire night reading reviews from other senior pet owners whose dogs had injuries just like Reggie's and went to sleep feeling hopeful for the first time in forever. I was just so relieved I could still help him somehow despite being too broke to take him back to the vet. I didn't have to wait long to see if the doggy chews would work the same as the human meds, and only a month after Reggie had been on his Wound Vite Chews, not only was he back to his normal self, but somehow even better. You would think I had been putting a shot of adrenaline in his kibble every morning with the way he shot up when I called him. Seeing my old dog running and jumping like a puppy again had me believing in God for the first time, and he even started playing with his old toys again. He had so much extra energy that I even started taking him to the dog park a couple times a week. It was a great break from my parents and he had never enjoyed being around dogs so much. His surgery scar healed up so well that you would have never known he had ever been sliced open. And he was even running faster than ever, as if he had gotten more agile overnight, as if he had started aging in reverse. I would check his skin every single day and only watched it get smoother and healthier. You couldn't even notice his big scar unless you reached down and pet him. His run was a lot smoother. When I cuddled with him I realized that even his coat was smelling better and felt softer. I couldn't remember the last time I had been so happy in years. It was like his newfound health was rubbing off on me. Reggie couldn't have started to improve at a better time, because me and him were still getting the hell out of that trailer park. When I watched Reggie run full speed at the dog park, I could see how much life he had in him and I wanted to make every second of it count. After Reggie fully healed up, I started taking him on every single one of my jobs as he only got stronger. Every time I took him to the dog park I had people coming up to me and asking me how my older dog had so much energy to run around for hours, and they were shocked when I said all I did was give him daily Wound Vite Chews. I started spending less and less time at home. I barely see my parents anymore and Reggie sleeps inside with me now. After months of stressing over his never-ending wounds, I finally managed to heal my boy and give him the life and body he deserved. In a year from now I'll have enough for our own place in the city, and it will finally just be me and Reggie, and my parents will wake up one day to realize all they have in this life is a crappy trailer and a half a box of Marlboros.